Hello, everybody, and welcome to what is it, like the 154th episode of Real Hawk Talk, something crazy like that. This is Brian Nemhauser at Hawk Blogger on Twitter, and I'm joined by people I vaguely recognize. Really, really excited to be back. One of the differences between our show, and we try to be humble in general, at least some of us, but Dayna is a little bit arrogant, but we won't go into that. So. But we broadcast when we've got something to say, and we broadcast when we want to talk. We don't just do it out of obligation. Like, we don't just do it because we have to. And I think it shows, honestly. Like, when I listen to shows where it's like people have to come up with material every day or every week, especially during the downtime, it feels a little forced. So the one thing you will always be able to count on, whether you agree with that or not, is when we're on, we're actually happy to be here. We're looking forward to talking to each other. We're looking forward to connecting with all of you, and looking forward to talking about the Seahawks. So we're back. We are back, bitches, and I'm excited to see it. So with me is just a rock star crew. Start with Jeff Simmons at Real Jeff Simmons on Twitter, up there holding the fort in Canada while the border's still closed. How are you doing, my friend?
Pretty good for the most part. I got my second vaccine last week, so
Congrats.
that was a bit. We in Canada were a little slow on those. We're starting to come around. We're at a lockdown now, so it's been good. I'm able to go outside. I'm able to see my family again. That's been really good. I'm excited to talk to you guys. It feels like it's been forever. Like, we talk in our little chat here, but like, it feels like it's been months. And I know Evan was just sort of saying this before the show, but I couldn't agree more. I know it's the dead period of the football season, but like, just the mini camps and the OTAs, and it sort of reignited my football love. And it's easy to get down on this team with the Jamal Adams stuff and all the other stuff going on, but having that was really exciting again. So I'm excited to talk to you guys again. It feels like it's been forever.
Dayna. At Dayna OG on Twitter. Last time I was talking to you, you had some big stuff going on. Like, you're building houses and all sorts of crazy stuff. Like, what's going on with you, man? Are you
Yeah, we did. We built a house. We moved. We sold our other house for a ridiculous amount of money. Anyone who knows who's buying or selling a house right now, it's good, kind of a good market for the sellers. But yeah, we had a really busy off season that. And then, of course, you guys know I'm a soccer freak. And so we're out, at the soccer matches all the time. And so it's been busy. But I think, Jeff, you're absolutely right. It was the mini camp. It was like, oh, it's almost time for football. Like, I had kind of just shuffled it away a little bit. Over at Our Turf, we're not near as busy during the off season. We kind of rejuvenate during the off season. And so now we're kicking back in because it's time. It feels like football is just around the corner, but truly it's just a month away before we get to training camp. And that's crazy to me.
It is crazy. It is crazy. It's sneaking up on all of us. And that brings us to the fourth.
The most attractive you saved for last.
Yeah, sorry. Am I introducing myself? Is that what? So at Evan Hill HB on Twitter, dude, it is so good to see you. How are you doing?
I am doing so freaking well. I was gonna say that's a really kind and nice intro to set us up in terms of we only, podcast when we want to talk to each other. But I feel like that's a code phrase translation for I can only handle so much of Evan, so much. So we need to space out my exposure to him.
I am skilled in the forms of manager talk, manager speak. I know how to make anything positive. And so, There might be a little truth in there. No, I have never, ever been unhappy to see you or to talk to you. I have been unhappy with some of the things you say, but that's completely different.
Fair.
How are I question for Dayna and a question for Evan. Dayna, how does it feel to have the inferior soccer team in the MLS? I mean, the Sounders haven't lost yet. Are you okay? Like, how are you holding up?
I'm good, because we're just right behind you. We're just right behind you.
Okay with
I'm
you
a
being
sporting
behind
Kansas
us.
City fan. I love my sports. I love sporting Kansas City. I absolutely love them. But my son is a crazed Sounders fan. And so
Hey.
between the two of us, we kind of go back and forth a little bit. But yeah, we're doing okay. We'll
Dayna,
come in September when we have to pay.
Hold up. Dayna, are you watching the Portland Trailblazers this week? Oh, wait. They're not playing this week.
I was going to ask you.
Only good
Poor
basketball
Brian.
teams are still
When
playing.
did the Suns play? Have they played yet tonight?
Suns in 5, as I've been saying forever. Suns in 5, baby. As a long-time Phoenix Suns fan. Long time.
Yeah. Good for you. Long time Suns fan, Evan Hill. So let's switch to talk about the Seahawks a little bit. I'm curious. First question I have for all of you, like, there's been a fair amount that's gone on since we last spoke. I'm gonna start by sharing like the thing for me of all the news that like has me excited. Of all the news was when I got the little notification on my phone that we've got confirmation that Lumen Field will be full capacity for the upcoming season. No masks, like all in, baby. I am so excited to get back to football, to go inside a stadium, to go pregame at bars, drinking like crazy, eating nachos, like gaining even more than the COVID-19 I've already gained. It's going to be awesome. So that,
and I just got to stop there real quick there for you. Yeah, I have to hit this point home, and we've talked about it previously on the show. But for those of you who do not know Brian in real life, there's this strange dichotomy with his Twitter, YouTube, podcasting personality, and then the game day Brian. They are two polar opposite individuals. This is a man that, prides himself on rationality and well thought out logic on the internet and good, thoughtful, wise argument, blog posts. This man is a monster on Seahawks football days. He is an absolute monster. You do not want to encounter this man if the Seahawks lose or are struggling mid-game. Avoid this man. He's a terror. He's a terror among Seahawks fans.
You're not wrong, and I'm part of the reason Evan doesn't go to football games anymore. He's like, I think I'm just gonna stay home. That's a little bit much. Like, dial it back. You're right, man. It is an outlet for me, and I love it. I love every minute of it.
No, and I fully respect it. I want to be super clear. It's phenomenal. I love that part of you. I just wish more people got to see that part of you because it is entertaining.
Yeah, well, it's reserved for the private few, but it is a fun time. So I'm curious though, like of all the news that's broke, I think I know, Dayna, what your answer is, but
oh really?
Yes, you were sending notes to us about it today, but maybe I'm wrong that it's the thing that you're most excited about. So
yeah, I am pretty excited about the extra helmet. I'm not gonna lie, I have wanted those throwback uniforms for so long. They just are so cool looking. And I'm not going to say when Seattle switched to the uniforms that they have now, I was like, thank God. Because the ones before them were just horrific, right? The worst, the shiny, creepy blue. Like I hated that. Right. But to know that, I will say this though, to know that there's a possibility to get those silver helmets back out and get those uniforms back out is great. But it was interesting. I saw on Twitter today, there's an argument. You have to dump either wolf gray or action green. And I am dump action green all day long.
Dayna.
I don't like it. I know. Dayna. I like the gray better.
Wait, hold up. So do you have to? Is that like the rule?
You can only have 3.
Huh.
I thought that's what I read, is that you could only have 3. Am I wrong?
Not sure.
I'm not challenging you. I didn't see.
Yeah, I did read that today, but it's the internet.
For the sake of good conversation, if that is the rule and you had to drop, I want to know which, like, and if any of you say action green other than Dayna, like I'm going to be polite a little bit to Dayna, but just be very polite. What are you talking about? Action green, no. Jeff. What are you going to say? I'm already getting ready to get
like the Joey Galloway, Sean Springs jersey. I think that's my favorite Seahawks jersey.
So which would you throw out?
The white one.
There's a very clear answer to this, and
What?
I just want to be clear about this, guys. Like, the Wolf Gray has got to go.
No.
The Wolf Gray has got to go.
Got it.
It is the most. It is the most. I don't care if they always win in it. It is the most visually unappealing thing to look at. I would rather watch a Seahawks game in not the Wolf Gray and have them lose than watch the Wolf Gray for a full 3.5 hours and have them win.
Gray tops with the blue bottoms. Oh,
Yeah, that's the Wolf.
I want to puke all over my TV.
Oh, well.
That's
shut
the
it up,
action
Evan.
green.
I'm not going all the way there with you that I'd rather watch them lose than wear Wolf Gray. I'm not there at all. But I never got the obsession with Wolf Gray. There are people that are dyed in the wool Wolf Gray fans. I always thought it just looked like dirty white. It like never looked like, it's not white. It's not really gray. It's just kind of like dingy. So like I've never been a Wolf Gray fan. Action green, on the other hand,
It hurts the retinas. It's so bright.
there is no doubt when the Seahawks come on the field in action green. And I think they're like undefeated times 10 in those uniforms. So like easy choice.
Yeah, but dude, then Bobby Wagner replied to this. I think it was Corbin that said that. I was putting this out there. Bobby Wagner says we're pushing for blacks.
Oh, that would be
No.
I
What if it's black
What?
jerseys with like the lime green
With the
sprinkled
green,
throughout?
it
How
would
many
look
black jerseys are out there? There's too many black jerseys. I think no.
Okay.
But why is that, Dana? It's a fantastic
It's
lack
common.
of color. It's not a color. It's a
common.
lack of
Offensive lineman.
What,
It's
Jeff?
common.
It's the slimming color. It's good for the offensive lineman.
Trying to make the big boys look teeny.
That's why I'm wearing black.
Not a fan.
Can you
But I will
imagine
say in
DK
this
Metcalf?
conversation, Action Green was winning. People wanted to keep the green.
Good.
So there are more people on your side.
Dana, can't you imagine DK Metcalf in a black uniform with like green highlights? I mean, he would
Oh,
be so bad.
keep going, Brian.
Oh, yeah,
Keep going, Brian.
No, not
Keep
again.
going, Brian.
Not again.
We're almost there.
I
No,
don't
sorry.
dislike black uniforms. I love the Falcons blacks. They're beautiful, but it's just common. There's too many of them. We don't need to go with the blacks.
Okay. All right. So Dana bringing up, the potential for the throwbacks. I saw a lot of people excited about that.
Mhm.
Jeff, of all the things that have gone on, what's the thing that's like stood out to you? You're most excited about, got you thinking about football?
Okay, so I'm one of these guys that will totally convince himself in any offseason storyline. It's weird. I'm not like this with my other teams. My other teams are really bad. I was tweeting Evan about that the other day. The other teams I follow like are really bad. So the Seahawks are the one team where like I just convince myself into everything. And the one thing I've totally convinced myself, and this might fall on our face, is Shane Waldron. And the Shane Waldron storyline to me is by far the most interesting storyline because the comments you're hearing from the players are just pretty remarkable because really one of the biggest knocks that I've had with Pete Carroll, and it's very different than what other people have had, is that I don't think he's surrounded himself with good enough assistant coaches. Daryl Bevel, Brian Schottenheimer, they're competent coordinators, but they're not, no one would call them like a high upside coach. And I remember Albert Brewer wrote this a couple of weeks ago that a lot of people from the Shanahan tree have thought for a while. So between hearing that and then hearing the players, I'm totally bought into this. And maybe I'm making a mistake, but to me, this is the thing that raises the ceiling on this team more than anything right now. And Brian's talked about how the Rams scheme is really the perfect fit for Russell. So hearing what we've heard about all the different players and how they've talked about Waldron and just the feedback so far, I'm really excited about it. It might be total bullshit and it might be just be player speak, but I am very excited about the change here. And I wasn't the biggest Schottenheimer guy. So having a high upside offensive coordinator to me is a really fun part of the season that we really haven't had in this whole regime.
Evan, you're going to have to write down whatever your answer was to my question about the thing you're most excited about, because we're going to spend a little time on Shane Waldron here. Okay. So I don't trust you're going to.
I don't even have an answer because I've been off Twitter.
Time to think
Evan's like, I hate everything still.
Let's talk about Shane Waldron because I don't know, Evan, Dana, how much you read about some of the things that people were saying, right? We heard from Tyler Lockett. We heard from Will Dissly. I think we heard from Gerald Everett. I think we heard from DK Metcalf. Russell Wilson, and I'm probably missing some people, obviously Pete Carroll, but players, right? And some of the comments I remember was just it's varied. I think we heard a lot about pace and tempo, and that they're going to be able to operate at a tempo that they haven't done before. I think that they talked about a little bit more freedom in the offense, and that it's going to be harder to predict, more variability and matchups. Those are some of the things I heard. Smart, like, I think I heard somebody utter like genius, like he's a guru. And that got me pretty excited. Like when players are saying things like, look, we could say it's early. Did anyone say anything approaching that about Brian Schottenheimer when he got hired, or about Daryl Bevel when he was hired at any time?
No.
I think there was a lot of positive comments about Schottenheimer after he was hired. A lot of, excited to have new influx of ideas, blah, blah, blah. But I think that this level is a little different. And I don't know, like we've said, like Jeff said, we don't know if it's bullshit or not, if they're just saying that to say it. But it does seem to be definitely wrenched up a notch in this.
Evan, how are you feeling about your boy Russell Wilson's new OC? Like, I mean, it's a big deal. Maybe the biggest offseason edition of anything the Seahawks did.
Yeah, I just pulled up a quote from Lockett where he said, the change in the up tempo is mostly a faster huddle. So for those calling him a guru, anybody that gets this offense to the line of scrimmage before, 5 seconds left with the clock winding down, that's a big step of improvement for this team.
You're saying it like in a smart ass tone, but it is absolutely.
But it's actually a thing. Like, it's completely ridiculous that this has been an issue for like Russell Wilson's entire career.
But let's break down for a second why, because it sounds a little smart alecky, but it's true. So what people might not know, I think a lot of folks do, but it was well known that Sean McVay was in Jared Goff's ear all the way up until the microphone gets cut off. And I believe it's at 14 seconds left on the play clock. I might be wrong, but I think it's 14 seconds. And so what they would do, everyone gets it cut off at the same time. The Seahawks would always be in the huddle at that point. The Rams would be at the line of scrimmage. And why does that matter? Because now you see the alignment of the defense. You know what they're doing, and you have a chance to actually help your quarterback. Like, there's no reason to just assume the quarterback he can be great, but there's no reason that you don't want to collaborate on getting the offense into the best possible chance to succeed. So get to the goddamn line of scrimmage. Like, it's so frustrating. And how many times do we see the Seahawks get to the line of scrimmage late and then see something they didn't expect and then take a timeout? Like, infuriatingly stupid stuff. So I think it's a big deal.
There's like actual data behind this too. I'm reading like a Field Goals article on this where it says, with time left on the play clock, with the play starting quarters 1 through 3, so excluding the fourth quarter, the Seahawks are like bottom 5 with starting the play on average with time left on the play clock. So I'm not sure if that makes sense, but like the stats absolutely validate the emotions behind this.
And who is that indicative of? Is that Russ? Is it Schottenheimer? Is it Pete? Like, where do you think that delay comes from?
I think it's coaching.
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely coaching. To me, it doesn't make any sense why the quarterback would ever say, let's stay in the huddle as long as possible. Like, maybe Russell is like a slow speaker in the huddle. And
we got to give Russ credit on this, though. Hasn't he been like calling for up tempo for like multiple years now? Like, whether or not he may be executing to the full best of his ability, that's a different question. But at least he's been vocalizing it, right?
It's interesting.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Well, it's funny. Like, I think it was Derek who wrote that it's sort of an off-season meme now that anyone getting excited about up tempo and no huddle, it's kind of a joke now because it never ends up happening. But to me, I actually think there's real reasons for optimism here because of how good the Rams were running that. When they were saying up tempo, that was assuming that Pete and Shoddy could do it, which is a reason to laugh at it. But if you look at how the Rams run their offense, they have a guy coming from that exact staff. So I think there's actual reasons to be excited about this rather than in the past where it was sort of just words that Russell was saying that sort of went one in your ear and went out the other. And what to add to what Evan was saying, if you remember, there was an incident in last year's playoff game where Pete and Shoddy were fighting over a 4th down play call, and they couldn't get the play in on time. So that was a big issue of why they might have been struggling to get out of the huddle. That might have been two coaches in each other's ear, who's one making decisions. I think the most optimistic thing I've heard to add to this even more is that Pete said he's sort of been hands off on the offense so far.
I did read that.
Yes.
And
I have not gotten in his way because he has such command of what he's doing.
We'll see what happens after they lose a game or after they don't run enough. But that to me is a very notable comment, what Evan just said.
Can I say something though too? From what I've heard, and this will be much to Nathan's chagrin because we know how much Nathan loves a good run game. But I do think that when Pete was talking about Waldron's offense and the run game, they sound like they could be quite complementary. It's not like they're going to go out and run the ball. What did he say? 50 times a game or whatever, that a fast up-paced tempo can actually really benefit the run game too. And so it'll be interesting to see whether it's probably not in preseason, but those first 4 games to see how that balance really does kind of work itself out.
Well, and in defense of the anti-run contingent out there, I think even they would say that if you're going to run smart and run when there's a light box and when you have an advantage. And part of the Rams offense is designed to force defenses to have to make that decision. And that's part of why getting to the line of scrimmage early helps you have an option of actually, check to the run or check to the pass. Like, you just have more variability and control there. It's not that complicated. It's like count the guys in the box and make a call. Like, and for whatever reason, the Seahawks disadvantage themselves. And I'm going to keep harping on this tempo thing because I think there's other things that people might not realize that are effects of that. First of all, tempo doesn't always mean no huddle, and it doesn't mean like constant, like just running the line of scrimmage. It can just be getting the line of scrimmage faster. And what does that mean? What has to happen for that to happen? The play actually has to get in. You can't get to the line of scrimmage without the play being called. They have to have been in the huddle or something to call the play. So Seahawks have had trouble either with Pete interfering or with communication or with just whatever. Getting the plays in has been an issue. And so this is going to force that. Even if they're late now, the time that they're planning to get the play in is earlier, and they'll have more chances to potentially avoid delay of game penalties like we've seen. The other thing is substitutions have to be done earlier, or they do less of them. We will not see, knock on wood, we will not see the Seahawks line up with a chance to win the NFC West at the 1-inch line and have a delay of game penalty because they're trying to figure out if Marshawn Lynch should substitute in or not.
Yeah.
That won't happen in this kind of offense. And like, at least it's significantly less likely to happen. And I mean, I just think in general, anything you can do to have a simpler offense that is getting to the line faster, more decisiveness, I think that looks very different than the Seahawks we've seen. And so, I mean, not to mention Chris Carson, running into guys, that are a little more winded. DK Metcalf running by guys that are a little more winded. Sounds good. I'll take it. Yeah. I will definitely take it.
And to add to what Dayna was saying, a lot of people seem to forget that the Sean McVay offense comes from the Shanahan tree. And the thing that Shanahan's offenses do so well is the run game and the pass game are married together. What's been so frustrating about the Seahawks offense and why there's been this run versus pass, it's almost seemed like they've been disconnected, where the pass game is just counteracting the run game. They've never really worked off each other well. And there's just been a total disconnect. And there's almost been this war on Twitter where the Seahawks go run, pass, which again makes passing harder and makes running harder. So and I remember Pete was on the Rich Eisen show, and me and Dayna were talking about this when it happened. The thing he kept mentioning is how much Shane Waldron and the offense reminded him of early days of Mike Shanahan. Mm-hmm. So that's the offense he's coming from. And that's the offense where they do a lot formationally, and they do a lot to again, marry the run and the pass game, where running is not disadvantageous. It actually makes sense in a lot of cases. So if the offense works like that, That's going to be great for Chris Carson. That's going to be great for DK Metcalf. It's going to be even better for Russ because the looks are going to be much more confusing. So if they're able to run the offense like that, where everything is connected and everything's married, unlike last year where they were really, really good vertically, that was Schottenheimer's strength, but they couldn't really do anything else consistently. There's a lot of upside for this offense that really they can get to levels they haven't been.
Dayna and Jeff, there's another storyline, and Jeff, you've been harping on this, but I think it was one of the less heralded ones out of camp. You've been talking about how important the tight ends are in this offense for the Rams. 2 tight end offense, what the tight ends are going to be asked to do. We all know Gerald Everett was one of the big offseason pickups, but the other name that kind of has been lost to some extent is Will Dissly. And if people were kind of like, all right, he's been injured a few times, and last year he just didn't seem like quite the same player, at least the same impact player. Dissly was pretty clear. He wasn't there last year. He was not fully. And how many times have we seen players go through a serious injury and it's not the year that they come back, it's the following year where and he said, I feel like I'm back. Like I don't remember his exact words, but that was the gist of it. And Dissly was an impact player on that offense. He was Russell's one of his favorite targets. And so I think the idea, Dayna, of Will Dissly, Gerald Everett as your top 2 with Colby Parkinson as a third, I think is a pretty underrated storyline for what the Seahawks season could see coming up.
It is. I'm real pissed at Will Dissly. I'm not going to lie. I'm having a personal.
Oh, from the soccer tweet?
Yeah.
Okay.
And this boy's from Montana. So, right, like I want to always stick up for him because I'm from Montana originally. And so I'm like, come on, right? Stick up for this. So don't sound like an idiot. He sounded like an idiot. So I'm a little irritated at Will Dissly, but I do completely agree with what you said. I think that having a strong tight end group, because we just have to remember that last year, what did Russell do? He threw the ball down the field, always to DK, double team, triple, right? And then Tyler, and they didn't have any way to spread it out, or they didn't, one or the other, But so when you look at it, having a strong tight end group can really kind of change the look of that. And it can really kind of change the feel of it. We complained a lot last year, you guys, that no one was coming across the middle, that they weren't doing these short passes. They were always trying to throw for the end zone. And I think that Everett specifically and a healthy Dissly, because I do think he's a solid player. I'm not going to say he's a great tight end, but he's a solid tight end. I think that could change a lot of that. And I think that's why so many people were excited about Gerald coming in in the offseason, that could really kind of change that a bit.
Well, Evan could tell you, like, George Kittle is no Will Dissly, but
I was going to say, I'm just excited to watch a Seahawks offense with, a high powered tight end, because the Seahawks have never had that before. Like, they've never had a competent tight end one. So,
God, do you remember how excited we all were? Well, I wasn't.
Brian was not.
About Jimmy Graham. I was running around my living room. I was so excited. And 3 games in, I'm like, well, shit, this is not what I thought was going to happen.
Ever prioritize finesse over strength in a game of gladiator strength. So, yeah, Evan, speaking of which, there were some other storylines. I don't know any that stuck out to you. Daryl Taylor, go ahead.
Can I ask a couple of questions?
Yeah, I would love it.
Because I'm out of the loop.
I'm carrying this whole show, dude. Help me out here.
I'm out of the loop a little bit on Seahawks news. So I'm just recently back to Twitter. So I need some, quick answers. Number one, so Jamal Adams wasn't at OTAs. Yes. Was that excused or not?
It was excused. Yes. It was excused. He had a family.
Okay, so it was not truly contract related.
Nope.
Related.
I don't think so. Now here's the reason why I don't think so. Excuse me for butting in. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't think it was solely contract related, because he was posting pro Seahawks stuff the entire time. Now that could be a good game.
He posted the other day. His agent was probably so pissed.
Why? What did he?
When the story came out that the Seahawks fans are back, he posted some all exclamation thing, like, I can't wait to play. And
front of the 12.
His agent was probably like, "Oh, Jamal, you idiot."
They're gonna pay him. It's not even a
question. It sounds like it doesn't sound like a hostile thing going on right now.
Yeah, not at all.
Okay. Question number 2. How bad is the Eskridge injury?
Not bad.
I'm bad.
Not bad.
He was back before the end of camp.
Yeah, it's
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I saw the tweet that was like big toe injury or something, and I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
he was even
it probably meant literally like the big toe.
No,
Yeah.
that's what it's yeah.
I'm an idiot. I read that tweet from Joe Fan, and I was like, big toe injury? No. But I didn't realize it was like,
Oh,
Hey.
Oh, Evan.
Evan, thank you.
I just
Catch
realized
on
that.
it.
Your contributions. Quick shout out to Joe Fan.
That's
for people that
hilarious.
didn't hear, I think NBC Northwest lost the Blazers games to Root Sports, and so they've had to downsize a little bit, and Joe's not going to be covering the Seahawks for them, which is a huge loss for us as fans. And Joe's a great guy. I think, if not the best beat guy on the group, he's right up there. And I heard he was on KJR today doing some guest
And
hosting.
tomorrow, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that'll stick. But yeah, wishing Joe the best. Definitely a fan of the pod, a friend of the pod. So, but yeah, like you bring up Eskridge,
Mhm.
wide receiver. I gotta say, it's feeling a little thin.
The
Penny
receiver
Hart,
group?
Penny Hart was the big story in camp. Not buying it at all. Like Penny Hart's a fine, like fifth receiver, special teams guy, whatever. I guess I have to see Eskridge to feel okay about it. But other than Lockett and Metcalf, I still look at that group. I mean, Freddie Swain, like I think number 3 receiver is probably one of the biggest questions on the team going into training camp.
Would it? Wow. I'm like kind of surprised to hear you say that. Like, you really don't think Eskridge is just going to slot right in there or kind of be the default guy?
Look, I mean, there's been some successful rookie receivers of late, for sure. But the book on receivers in general has been it does take them a couple of years to adjust to the NFL and to really hit, be an impact player. And
I have a question for you then. Considering Seattle's limited draft capital this past year and moving forward in next year, is it a disappointment to you if Eskridge doesn't slide in right at that wide receiver 3 spot and start there week 1?
Yeah, I think he's the guy with the biggest upside, right? That we know of on the team so far for that position. I mean, Golden Tate's still out there, and honestly, I would feel a lot better if Golden Tate was on this roster.
He's still unsigned.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many people still unsigned. It's kind of
A
amazing.
lot of guys with Seahawks ties too.
So KJ Wright didn't sign anywhere yet, did he?
So it sounds like the door is almost closed on that one.
I think he's going to end up in Dallas, but that's just me. But
I just don't know what's going to happen.
I think he might retire. I mean, like,
I think Dallas drafted 2 linebackers. There's no room for him.
oh, that's true. They did, didn't they?
which is weird because he balled out last season. He was like, we all argued he's at least the most consistent defender for the Seahawks. And you could say he was the best defender for the Seahawks last season. So it is odd that he's just not finding a job anywhere, but he is older.
Unless he's just being like super strict about what he thinks he's worth, right?
Or where he wants to play.
Yeah. So I mean, the rest of you feel better about receiver? Like you're okay heading into camp with what we've got?
Go ahead.
Can we
Evan, go first. Go ahead.
Can we list out like the entire group? Does somebody have the positional list?
I will bring up the roster here.
I'll say that I'm comfortable with Eskridge. I think he slots in very nicely as the third receiver. If he gets hurt, I do think the depth could be a little better. I'm with Brian. I'm not buying the Penny Hart thing so much. He's a fifth or sixth receiver at best.
So Brian doesn't buy the Penny Hart thing, but he stand Malik Taylor till his death.
Yeah, Malik Taylor was a solid receiver. So here's the guy that you should be excited about, Connor Weddington. Connor Weddington out of Stanford. I know a lot of guys are excited about him. There's John Ursua, 75 years old.
Isn't he hurt already?
He did get hurt.
He's old. People.
He did. He got hurt in OTAs.
Yeah. It's not like arthritis.
Dude, he's like a geriatric player. He's gonna pull something. So, Travis Toivonen
Sounds like a hockey player.
from North Dakota. So I mean,
He
clearly
should be a hockey player.
Yeah,
from North Dakota.
Are you sure he's not on the Kraken?
Cody Thompson.
feel like my name's going to be listed here in a second. Like,
Tamorian Terry,
who are these people?
who a
Undrafted
lot of
free
people
agent.
like out of Florida
people
State.
like him. He's like
Yeah.
People like him.
Carroll Lockett kind of guy.
But Freddie Swain, which we know, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, we know those guys. Darvin Kidsey,
That's not real.
Texas
Undrafted
Southern.
free agent.
Cade Johnson out of South Dakota State.
People like him too.
People do like him.
Penny Hart, Aaron Fuller, the Husky, Dwayne Eskridge, and that's it. I mean, you cannot tell me that you're feeling like, yeah, that receiver crew is stocked. There's no way.
Let me say this. I couldn't figure out the appeal of Eskridge right away to P and John, because I did not realize that he was a track player, and we all know, or a track star, and so we all know how that they love that, but he also has played defense. That makes him unique. Pete's favorite thing. He's unique. He's a unique player. He's very versatile. He's unique. And I was like,
Eskridge.
damn it. I think he'll be fine. I think he'll be
very
a
high
fine
on
player.
him.
Yeah.
Pete Carroll
But
has
it just
ruined.
cracked me up that there had to be a reason. You know, that's always the reason with P. And so that made me laugh. But I think he was okay. I mean, people seem to be somewhat impressed with the things. I mean, not that OTAs count for anything, right? But that he was picking things up and had did well in OTAs. He didn't look like a sore thumb, but he had a pretty good college career. I mean, it was a smaller school, but still, he did some things that caught their eyes, and he's versatile, and he's
everyone
a
talks
special
about
player.
Western
He's
Michigan
unique.
like it's nothing. Like Corey Davis went to Western Michigan. Greg
Right.
Jennings went to Western Michigan. There's been multiple guys that have come out of there have been instant impact players in the NFL. There's been a lot of guys who've come out of the MAC. T.Y. Hilton, I think, was in that conference. Antonio Brand was in that conference. I don't think there's going to be a big jump. There's certain questions. He's an older player, which is
What are you
clearly
going to say, Evan?
I was just gonna say Pete Carroll ruined the word versatility for me. Every time I hear that word, now I'm like traumatized. Like,
it's the worst with offensive linemen. When people, well, he can play like 3 different positions, but he can't play one really well.
I just can't handle it. The word causes me trauma. I'm like triggered by it now.
It's true. It's true. I guess I'm not down on Eskridge. That's not it. I just think this is a team that
You're worried about the depth.
I get that.
Well, I'm worried about assuming Eskridge is going to be the guy. Like, there's no competition. Like, clear competition. Freddie Swain, like these other guys, they can push him. But like, as much as I liked Swain, he does not have the upside of a guy that I see pushing Lockett or Metcalf. And that's the level of receiving talent I think you want as your third receiver, is someone who actually, like, given the chance, could push one of your starters. If you have a good role player who can just fit that role, great. That's why I guess I'd like to have at least one guy on the roster where you know exactly what that person could bring. And that's why I like Golden Tate. He's not the Golden Tate of old. He's not going to do everything, but you have a pretty good idea of what he can bring. And there's a floor, I think, to what Golden Tate is. And he's also pretty darn durable. So, like,
It's true.
I just would feel more comfortable about the makeup of the roster if they had someone like that. But by the way, I was 100%. Everyone wanted us to do a show about Julio Jones. Like, we haven't been on since that whole thing went on. I was like,
lifetime.
nothing burger. Like, I'm not going to do a show about that. There's no reason for the Seahawks to do that move. But I still would like them to have a better third receiver. Anyone want to say anything about Julio Jones since I brought that up?
Happy he's in. Where do you end up? Tennessee? Where do you end up?
Tennessee. He's a Titan.
Good for him.
Russell,
Weird, yeah.
I love you, but like, shut up on the personnel stuff. Like,
he's not lying. Evan texted me that the day the rumor came out.
like Russell, cool your jets a little bit.
You just want to see Russell doing those deep squats. I know it.
Oh, you see that video the other day? Oh my God, Daddy Russell. Good Lord.
Oh my God.
That's hilarious. Hey, can we talk about Russell for just a minute? I know he wasn't our favorite subject before because of all the drama, but I have to say, after watching his press conference, it was a very well put together, scripted, but I thought he answered the questions as directly as he could without coming out and say, yeah, I was pissed and I told them to do this, that, and the other. I thought that he Russell Wilsoned that pretty well, but it felt a little more genuine to me than some of the other overly glossed things that we've gotten out of him. And I think that might have calmed some people's fears with him, at least for this season. Of course, it's going to start all over again next offseason. But after that, I was also very grateful to Mr. Diva in Green Bay for taking the realm of I'm not going to play for my
That's what I was going to say.
and kind of getting the focus off Russell. But I was somewhat impressed with that press conference.
I have to say the worst moment of camp for me was the Russell putting his head into Pete's press conference.
Oh God,
so corny.
That they were friends still. It was cringy.
Yeah.
That was trying too hard.
Yeah.
There were a couple bits of news I want to bring up. So one, big news: Michael Dickson signed an extension. Our punter's going to be around, so
forever.
Lowered his cap hit. I know Evan got excited about that. Two other guys I'm going to name. Both who I think, one I know will get Evan excited. Marquise Blair had a good camp or had a good OTA. And the word is that he is assumed to be the leader of the pack for the nickel corner position.
Ooh.
And that's interesting to me. Like, I think it's great news. I just have assumed that he was going to be part of the outside corner battle, and maybe that'll still emerge. But like Ugo Amadi was really solid in nickel, and I am curious how that will play out. So that's one topic. You guys can choose if you want to. The other, let's just do a quick buying or selling on Robert Nkemdiche. Buy or sell. So one of the stories is this guy was out of football last year, like basically was overweight and people just didn't buy it. He athletic freak, but he's got the new lease on life. He's got top 10 pick physical gifts. He's got bottom 5 pick, mental makeup. And that's led to a pretty disappointing career. He's playing inside at defensive tackle. Pete mentioned him and the way he moves, the energy he's bringing, the attitude he's got. Buying or selling, Jeff? Robert Nkemdiche.
This is what I was talking about before. I totally convinced myself into all these stories. Like my brain says it's like 80% chance he doesn't make the team, but I'm totally in on this right now. I've totally convinced myself this is a good idea, even though like logical Jeff is like, that is a stupid thing to get excited about. But yeah, I've convinced myself in the last week that he's going to be good. So I'm going to have fun with this. I'm going to say that he makes the team and he actually is okay for 1 year, sort of like when Mike Williams came back and was pretty good for a year before he fizzled out pretty quick. So I'm in on it for now. If they sign Geno Atkins before camp, it's pretty telling about how they view it. Nkemdiche. But I've convinced myself that it's going to work and it's a good idea.
Dayna, I don't know if I want to make the roster because I'm going to have to spell his last name over and over again in my articles. That's gonna be a bear. But are you buying or selling?
I admitted this to you guys in our chat, and I will admit it publicly now. I completely forgot he was on the team. Like I was like, oh yeah, hey, did you guys remember that?
I honestly didn't.
Forgot. I literally just forgot. I don't know. I think that there's probably a 60% chance he makes this team. I think that everything looks good when there's no pads and helmets on, and so it'll be interesting to see if he can carry that over or if he will have enough oomph, for lack of a better word, to actually kind of get this rolling. I'm kind of selling on it. It's just not really.
All right. That's a fair take. Evan, buying or selling?
No, this guy's an idiot. I'm on the selling side of this guy. Trust me. Like he is. I think he's not a wise bet. He's not a wise bet, I think, to put it generously. But I do have a related question.
Okay.
Can I jump in?
I just have to
I
say
want to know
I'm
what Brian
buying.
thinks.
I'm buying.
You're buying. Okay.
Go on.
Do we have any update on Aldon Smith's situation / is he still on the roster?
He is still on the roster. He is, I don't know if he's been arraigned yet or whatever.
Court dates in July.
Court date's in July. The Seahawks have said they're waiting on the legal stuff to work itself out.
Any additional reports on like what happened or
I
clarified?
mean, the last I heard was that he was meeting his sister's boyfriend, who had been physically abusing his sister, and that, honestly, not that surprisingly, things got heated. And
but there's been no new information since that report.
Not that I've heard of.
Pete said that he was in Seattle, but not ready to practice. That was the last. It's actually gone pretty quiet.
That happened to be my next question. Aldon Smith makes the team, or is on the roster when the team breaks camp for the regular season, or is not on the roster? Evan?
I think he is.
Dayna?
I that's impossible to answer until you get past this court date.
That's the whole
point. I know. Okay, so let's just assume that the court date has no impact on it. Can we say that? So like whatever happens in court, it doesn't have an impact. I think he probably does make the roster. Does he play the whole season? I don't know. But because he has tendency to get in trouble mid-season too sometimes. Yep. But I think he probably makes the roster if the legal stuff doesn't get in the way of that.
Jeff?
I'll say probably not. I hope I'm wrong about that. It'd be exciting if the other two are right, but I think because they have so many bodies there and the potential legal situation, I'd say the odds are against him.
I want to say yes, but I'm thinking no. And
I hope I'm wrong.
I hope I'm wrong too. I'd love to see as many pass rushers as they could squeeze on this team as possible. So yeah.
You know what I'm so curious about? I know we were talking about it earlier, but I'm so curious to know what the number comes in at for Jamal Adams. I'm like,
what's your prediction?
I think it's somewhere between like 18 and 19 per year, like 18.5 seems what I think it will be. Like current top of safety market, I think it's Justin Simmons at 16 per year, 16 and change, something like that. And Jamal Adams' agent will say, I'm not a safety, I'm a playmaker. And, I'm more than just good in coverage. I can rush the passer and blah, blah, blah. I'm a defensive playmaker. At least that's that's what the argument will likely be. So, if Bobby got paid 18.5, on his third contract with the Seahawks 2 years ago, are you telling me that the Seahawks wouldn't pay Jamal Adams at least that, who's 24, 25 years old? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I know it's totally different positions, but like when you think about defensive value, like
he's the best player on that defense.
Jamal Adams.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, are you really not going to pay him more than Bobby?
Yeah, I'm with you. 18 million is the number I've had in my head. I'm expecting to see. It would reset the safety market by a couple million. So you've got that. And it's also entering into the tier of like, defensive, superstar playmakers, regardless of position. So anything under 20, I think I'd be okay with. If it goes somehow 20 or like 20 would be the number I'd be like, ugh. But 18, I think I could stomach. Where about you, Jeff?
Yeah, the number I'd been hearing from people around the league was 18. 4 years, 72 million was a prediction from a lot of agents. I heard the negotiations are not contentious at all. I saw Bob Condotta say that he comfortably predicts they'll sign him before camp. And you remember how Jamal was with the Jets? Like things got really loud and very messy. And I was sort of expecting that. And it's been quiet so far. Maybe it'll turn that way, but I think that's a good sign. And I think it'll come to the 18. I'm with Brian. If you're over 20, it's a bit hard to stomach, but we don't know how many years Bobby's going to play left. So if you go, where his cap number will go down this year, and then you sort of transition the Bobby contract to the Jamal contract, that's okay business. He's the best player on defense.
Hold up. Defensive playmakers. Richard Sherman is still unsigned?
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm very upset they haven't signed him yet.
I literally completely forgot about him.
Richard KJ.
Really? I bring him up almost every day. Literally.
Yeah. Sherman's still waiting.
Just prepare for it. There's going to be a point in the season where you're going to listen to the commentators on a game, and they're going to be like, can you believe that nobody signed this guy until like the middle of training camp? Like any of these teams could have had this guy on their roster, and they only signed him for $8 million or whatever he's going to make. Like someone's going to get an impact player. He's still a Pro Bowl corner in my mind for sure. Especially in the Seahawks defense.
What the holdup is from Seattle's perspective.
I think they like the young guys and they want to see them in training camp. I think they're going to wait and see a little bit farther what they've got. And I don't agree with
competition. Why not?
There is another story. I know we're running a little short because Dayna's got an early day tomorrow, but Duane Brown. So Duane Brown, it was a semi story. He kind of officially, he was at camp, at OTAs, I should say, but he did not participate. He was on the sideline every day, and report came out that he wants a new contract. I believe he's in the last year of his deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that any of us had talked about or predicted that Duane Brown was potentially a candidate for an extension. You guys have all been like, hey, he's old. We got to get a new left tackle. I do think he can play for a few more years if he wants to play and be better than pretty much anyone else that they could put at that position. So
do you guys know how old he is?
35,
35, something like that.
He's 35 years
35.
old. Like
Mm-hmm.
He's easily got another 3 to 4 years in him.
He's not 37. I know that sounds weird. It's just 2 years, but it's a huge difference in football world, right? Like 35 to 37 at that position.
Like, would you guys really be uncomfortable with like a 3-year extension on him?
No.
Nope.
Yeah.
And that's sort of, I looked at it as a positive. I know a lot of people got nervous about it. To me, it's a positive because he wants to keep playing. I know Brandon Thorne has been talking about how good his film was last year. And he's going into a scheme that is more protective of offensive linemen because of the quick game. And we've seen Andrew Whitworth in the same offense play at, 39 years old now?
Yep.
He was playing at a pretty high level last year. So Waldron's been around that kind of left tackle. To me, that's a positive because like Brian said, a lot of people forget that he is in the last year of his deal. We talk so much about Jamal Adams or Diggs or some of the other guys, but if he decided, okay, my body's breaking down or I don't really want to play anymore, that's a glaring hole unless you think Stone Forsythe is a left tackle of the future. So the fact that he keeps wanting to play, to me, I took it as a positive. To me, it's sort of a no-brainer deal. Reward a guy who's been by far their best acquisition over the last 5 years.
He has been an insane value for this team.
Yep.
That 3-year, $34 million deal.
Yeah.
And that trade, really.
He's like one of the best left tackles in the NFL.
Yeah.
That's a stupid value.
Well,
Where
I think
where are
somebody
we at?
said that he is still younger than Andrew Whitworth was when the Rams acquired him.
Mm.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. That's surprising.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Where is Seattle at cap wise? I haven't looked in a while.
Supposedly they have like $8 million in cap space, but dock a couple for IR and practice squad. So like 4 or 5.
Yeah, if
And
he
true.
signs them all, he
Easily
probably-
fixable once we all know that's
But
maneuver.
next year they have a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that's mostly to sign their own guys. So
So in the last few minutes, any other storylines, broader NFL topics, other things around the Seahawks, coaches, front office, anything else that folks want to bring up before we start wrapping for the evening?
Well, there was another name that came up in extension talk, and that was Diggs.
Okay.
There was a conversation that people thought that there was a lot of people out there. They're like, you know what? If they were smart, they would do that sooner than later. But that really starts to pile up these contracts quickly because then you have DK next year, or is he 2 years out? I can't remember. And
He's got 2 years left on his deal, including this year. But
after the end of the season.
Yeah. So I'm wondering who's going to end up at the bottom of that pile. I know there's a huge jump in cap next year. I know they have lots of money next year to play with. And so is there enough to shuffle all these players that they might want to keep and players that are good enough to keep? And you guys know I'm a big fan of Diggs. So, I think that's great. I would like to keep him around, but I'm wondering if there's going to end up being an odd man out with all these people, with all these players they need to look at extensions for. And maybe that's why KJ isn't back, because maybe he wants more than a 1-year deal. Maybe he wants 2, or whatever it may be. I just find it interesting that these names keep getting piled onto this stack of contracts. Adams obviously is at the top of that. And I think we all know that and understand it, but then at what level and who becomes the more important piece at that point?
Well, let's ask it this way. Jeff and Evan, would you be happy to hear that the Seahawks had signed Diggs to an extension, or would you, and I know the number matters, but just the general concept, knowing that they're roughly what he'd cost, would you be happy to hear that they signed him an extension, or would you be a little bit nervous? Jeff, why don't you start?
I'd be happy based on the defense they play. They play a ton of deep coverage with the free safety, and the middle coverage of the free safety is just something when they didn't have it, their defense just broke down. Mm-hmm. And if they had a different coordinator and a different coach, I would think differently. But we saw what happened in the Tedrick Thompson years. And when they had Earl playing at a high level, and Diggs is one of the better deep safety cover guys, I think it's important to wrap him up. I think he's a really important locker room guy. I don't think he's going to get worse over the next couple of years. I think he's still in prime age. So to me, I'd be pretty happy.
I think I lean happy as well. And the one thing I'll say is I don't think he would cost as much as people think. Yeah. Like I think it'd be under 10 per year, like 7, 8, 9, maybe. Like that would seem worth it in like a reasonable value for him.
So adding to what Dayna said, there is a ton of, so if you think about it, both safeties are up after next year. Both tackles are up after next year. And there's some other positions where I think Dayna nailed it on the head. That's why KJ Wright's not coming back. They need to find young, cheap options on the roster because they have a lot of people to pay. DK Metcalf included is about to jump up to $20 million a year. So now KJ Wright has been replaced by Jordan Brooks on a rookie contract, essentially, and Daryl Taylor on a rookie contract. They want those unique guys like that to counteract the big expenditures they have. And Gerald Everett's a free agent after this year.
Dunlap in a couple of years. Yeah.
Disley, I think Disley's up. I think both tight ends are up. Puna's going to come up in a year. Dunlap is coming up in a year. They have a lot of expenditures coming up. So they need some of these draft picks to work, and they need both their linebackers now are their first 2 picks from last year. So I think Daryl Taylor is going to end up starting at Sam linebacker.
Yeah, that was the other story for camp, and we don't have to go deep there, but there was pretty positive reviews. Pete Carroll has a vested interest in pumping him up, but was just like, I think one of the comments that landed for me as authentic was like, you can see why this was a guy that we really missed last year. Mm-hmm. And I think in that comment for me was like, yeah, he's got talent. Like, this guy's a talented player, and the Seahawks can be better with him on the field. And so we never got to see a single snap of that guy last year. We have no idea what he's going to bring. And
but what was that? Wait, what was that? Althon Sports or whatever? They ranked the Seahawks super low because Daryl Taylor could have played better.
He could have played better.
He could have played it all. That would have been great.
How did that get published?
I have no idea. Oh my God.
I used to read that stuff. I used to look forward to, I was little Brian Nemhauser was like, I'd go to like the grocery store or the 7-Eleven and I'd see those. I would like buy all of those like preseason mags and read like the little snippets of the stocks, and they were always so stupid. And I think that, like, to some extent, this whole podcast is here because of how stupid those things are. Like, I was so mad about the crappy national coverage. It helped form my point of view about national media and why bloggers are significantly better in most cases, because they actually care about the outcome for the team and they actually pay attention and go into some detail about why, or at least the good ones do. So thank God for Athlon Sports. We need crappy crap out there to make the rest of it stand out a little bit better. All right. So covered a lot of bases. I am so excited. We have already started making our travel plans as a group for when we are going to like watch games together. Like, I don't think it's going too far to say like we'll almost all, other than Dayna, because she'll be in someplace better, but we'll probably all be in Arizona come January. I think that there's a lot of Seahawks fans planning to go to Texas for some god awful reason. I don't.
You just do it. You have no idea what you're missing. That people can. First of all, we're gonna win, and second of all, they have the best tailgate. I've been to a lot of away games, living in the middle of the country, and that stadium is beautiful, and the tailgate is a blast. I have a great time every time I go to Houston.
Dayna, that is like the last game. Go to LA.
It doesn't matter
for the new stadium there and LA. Better prices, better city. Go to Green Bay. 100% better experience. Great.
Fans suck. I'm not going to Green
We'll get to see Jordan Love.
Wait, do we play the Packers this year?
Yeah.
God damn
in like
it.
coldness.
Jordan Love. It's
but Evan, you're missing it. We're gonna play the Packers without Aaron Rodgers, and we're gonna play the Saints without Drew Brees. Like it's not the same NFC that it used.
When is the Packers game though? Is it early in the year or is it
week 10?
Week 10.
It'll be after
middle of dead gas winter. Wisconsin.
You will not want to go to Green Bay in November.
No.
Bro,
guys,
go to Minnesota instead.
Green Bay is going to be like 25% of my temperature right now. Sorry.
That's great. Like you guys, like that is.
At Pittsburgh looks pretty different than it did a year or two ago.
It does.
It was so close to. Okay,
Might be bad.
get this, Jeff. My best friend is getting married, and I'm the best man in the wedding on the day of the Pittsburgh Steelers game. And it's in Columbus, Ohio. I almost told him I was leaving the wedding.
The wedding is Saturday.
Bro, I even mentioned it. I was like, we can't move this. Like,
I love that you asked them to move their wedding. That's
it
hilarious.
was not that far out. I mean, it's like, okay, I guess it's only like 4 months out, but still, like,
Saturday.
That is hilarious. You know how much of a crush there is right now in wedding planning? Like, is like everybody held up their weddings for the pandemic. So it's just every place.
Wedding photographers are just rolling in money right now.
I'm trying to get everyone to go to Houston because there's a bunch of us going to Houston, including Evan. Evan said he would come.
Yeah,
So
I hope you guys
come on, Brian, suck it up.
No,
suck
not
it up
gonna
and come to
happen.
Houston.
Not where I'm going to spend my time. But I'm excited for you all to go and enjoy it. So, all right. Anything else? I was going to wrap here. Jeff, you look like you're about to say something. Did I catch you?
I was just looking at when they're in Houston. Anytime I can get out of the winter, that's not a terrible idea.
Sons of Four.
You're going to be all by yourself in Seattle.
I'm never all by myself, even the times I wish I was.
That's fair.
So, all right, everybody. It has been great to be back. Tons of awesome Seahawks news to go through. And can someone look up when does training camp start? Like end of July usually, right?
28th, I think. 28th of July.
And we don't yet know if they're going to actually open it up for fans to attend. I'm guessing the answer will be no, but man,
the Chiefs did.
I hope they open it up.
They will.
I hope they open it up. That would be so great. And if they do, you know where to come to find all the latest info on that. And until then, by the way, I think some people are probably wondering, so patreon.com/hawkblogger, got a lot of people have signed up, get immediate access to the Slack channel. I've talked about been meaning to make our charitable donation. Talked with Tracy Schneider and John, and they're going to officially it's not going to be the same fundraiser as always. So I won't be able to do as much of the fun stuff as I'd hoped to do this year, but we will be making our donation at the end of July, and I'll announce what that will be when we do it. I'm going to have some lunch with them, and I will not be able to divulge any of the secrets I get from that conversation, but I am looking forward to it. And I'll get to do great stuff together. So I really appreciate everyone that tunes in, everybody that we all appreciate you subscribing, sharing the podcast with other folks, and joining at patreon.com/hawkblogger. The season's just around the corner. So great to talk to all of you. Great to see all your smiling faces. And as always, go Hawks.